So for the project kickoff, the very first thing you do is review your scope of work with a project manager. So on the schedule, you're going to have your details like the work order, the job media, and the SOP. So the project manager on Monday mornings is going to go through all this information with you. They're going to kind of walk you through the video. They're going to also ask questions to the salesperson and then communicate any details or information with you as the team lead. And it's important that you ask questions during this meeting to make sure that you're set up and ready to go. We're going to go through materials that are going to be used, any kind of special equipment that we need for the project, and then any of the SOP, the standard operating procedures that might be a little bit unique for this project. We're going to go through all that information, and it's just your responsibility to make sure that you're set up and you understand everything that's included in this project.
So this is what it kind of looks like to get set up and loaded for the next job. We've got all the supplies here collected from the shop. We're working off the SOP supply list on the schedule.
We'll go into one of those SOPs and show you what it looks like. We click on SOP. This is the standard operating procedure that you have to go through and check off as you complete that job. You have your goal sheet, and then you have your supplies. So on this project, we're going to be painting cabinets. These are the supplies that you need for the cabinet boxes. So this is what the crew would be loading up into the work vehicle. And as you come through here and you pick stuff off and you put into the center of the loading bay area, you just check it off. So you kind of get everything collected into that area. Then you open up that garage door and get it all loaded into the work vehicle.
I also wanted to point out that when you're pulling materials, this is our leftover bin. So we've got leftover plastic in here, leftover tape in this bin. Pull from the leftover bins first before you pull from any of the new areas. That applies for roller covers here as well. Pull from the used bin first before you pull from the new. All of the mini roller covers that are used and washed, pull these first before you're pulling from the new ones.
You see in the middle area right here, we have a job box. You're going to have your larger equipment like sprayers and stuff like that you kind of just collect in the middle, but the job box is for your smaller supplies and sundries like tape and plastic and miscellaneous items. So every single project, you're going to want to have a job box with you. Job boxes are located over by the spray booth area. So that covers loading tools and materials that are located in the shop into the work vehicle, but sometimes you're going to need to go to the paint store to pick something up. If you look at the work order, we'll click on this work order right here. At the very bottom, it's going to tell you the materials, and then it'll also tell you the name of the store that it's typically picked up from. So this is going to be a Hirschfield's product. It's going to be the Ilva 2K Poly. And typically we pick up the Ilva 2K Poly from the Savage store because it's better for tinting the product. We're also going to be using Bin Shellac Primer. That's going to be a Home Depot pickup. So if we go to the project kickoff in the collect load supplies and tools into the work vehicle, if you click on store locations, it's going to give you the most common stores that we go to pick up supplies. So here's the office location right here, Hirschfield's in Apple Valley. It gives you a quick description of the types of products that we typically pick up from there, but it's going to be TWP deck stain, Sikkens log and siding. There's also going to be tape and masking materials if you need it. They carry Benjamin Moore products, and also they have their own Hirschfield's product line. There's also the Hirschfield's and Savage. That's going to be the store that we picked up the Ilva coatings from. You're not going to want to go to the Hirschfield's in Apple Valley because they don't have the tint system yet set up for it. So the Savage location is going to be your best bet. It's also closest to the shop right here. And when you click on the link, like for the Hirschfield Savage, it's going to give you their phone number. And you can also get directions to that location. You could also just use Google Maps for that if you want to. Let's say that you're working somewhere like in Edina and is nowhere near any of these stores. You could just type in Hirschfield's near me and it's going to pull up a store in Edina that you can go to. Now, before you go to pick up materials, you always want to call them ahead of time. You don't want to assume that they have it, because a lot of times they don't, and they have to pick up those materials from a different store. Sometimes they have to get it shipped out to them, or sometimes you just have to travel to a different store location. So always call ahead to order the paint or the supplies that you need. We also have a Sherwin-Williams in Burnsville, very close to the shop here. It's probably 5-10 minutes away. That's going to be for more of our exterior paints. We use a lot of duration and emerald and primers and masking materials, and we also use some of their interior paints. Again, you can always reference the work order at the bottom. If it's a Sherwin-Williams product, it's going to say SWP down here for Sherwin-Williams. That way you know that you have to pick that up there. Then we also have a Home Depot in Apple Valley, and we have a Home Depot in Burnsville as well. We'll get that added in here later, but that location is quite a bit closer to the shop right here. So we have two Home Depots that you can go to pick up shellac primer, oil primers. We use a lot of cover stain oil primer that's located at Home Depot. And then if you need any kind of drywall mud or drywall tools, miscellaneous tools, Home Depot is a good place to pick that up from, or even lumber. So, and we'll probably also get Lampert's added in here. Lampert's is a lumber yard that's a little bit easier to work with if we were bringing in samples for lumber replacement. That's in Apple Valley off of Galaxy Avenue, so we'll get that added in there as well. But these are the most common stores that you're going to go to. Again, if you're somewhere else, you're not in the South Metro, just type it into Google Maps, search for it, and then give them a call just to make sure that they have the materials before you go out there and pick them up. Our next step in the project kickoff is putting a yard sign down, greeting the client, verifying the scope of work with the client, and then taking before pictures and documenting any damage. So we'll just show you real quick how to put a yard sign down. So we're getting set up for this job. The very first thing you want to do is get a yard sign out, even in the winter. Very simple. You just don't want to put it like this because you can't see it from both angles when you're driving down the road. Just get it put in like this. There's probably only going to be like a month or two when you can't do yard signs, and that's when there's no snow but the ground's still frozen over. Otherwise, during the winter, during the summer, we always want to have a yard sign out. It's the best way for us to advertise our work. After you get that yard sign down, you're going to go up and ring the doorbell. The client knows what time to expect you. We usually give them a range of, say, 8 to 9 o'clock. Ring the doorbell, introduce yourself, say, "Hi, my name is Connor. I am the team lead. And here is Mitch. He's going to be working with me as well on your project." So greet the client and then walk in and verify the scope of work with the client. So you're going to pull up the work order on your phone. So you can click on the work order. So we'll go to Derek Lidbaum for an example, and we're going to be painting his cabinets. So you already saw the video. You already talked to the project manager about the project. So you have a good idea of what you're going to be painting, but you're going to want to just verify this with the homeowner again. So the scope of work here is the kitchen cabinet painting. Here's the exclusions. Here's the steps that we're going to be going through. So you can kind of just walk through the project with the client quick and answer any questions that they have before you get started. To document damage and take before pictures, we use an app called Company Cam. It's going to be really important when you take these photos to take pictures with the intention of taking a really good after photo. So these are all the projects that we've recently completed. Marsha O'Brien was a nice big project. We'll click on that. In Company Cam, it gives us the ability to create before and after templates. And this was the before picture of the kitchen, and then this was the after picture. So the after picture has a lot more impact because we have this before picture that was in the same frame. So you don't want to get too close. You want to usually get a few pictures before taken that kind of show the entire project. And then you want to take some up close pictures, maybe to show the detail or the level of finish that we're able to produce. That's going to be more on the after style, or like during the project you're going to be taking those photos. But the before pictures, you're going to mainly want to think about what pictures are going to be good to take afterwards to showcase our work. The other thing you want to do is go through and document any damage. So Derek Lidbaum is a project that we're working on right now. I noticed that the crew had taken this picture right here is really to show any kind of damage that you see in the area that you're going to be working in. This is just to kind of protect yourself. A lot of times the customer just isn't aware of that damage until they start getting work done in that area. And then when you start to finish up the project, they become very focused on details around the project that maybe they didn't notice before, but now that they just had work done, they may notice damage now. And it's just important for you to take pictures of any kind of damage so that you can show the customer that it was done before you started working. So that's going to be, a piece of drywall that was damaged right here. If you're working in a kitchen, you really want to take pictures of flooring if there's any scratches, or any of the appliances if they're dents or anything like that on them. You want to take pictures of like the cabinets if they're misaligned. Any kind of thing that seems off to you in the kitchen, or something that's damaged, maybe a door that's cracked. If you're working outside and there's paint on cement, or siding where it shouldn't be, or windows, stuff like that, you want to document all of that stuff with before pictures. Here's an example of a picture where we had done all the cabinets in this person's house, and when we went to reinstall everything, these doors didn't line up, these built-ins in this powder room area. Now the customer was like, why aren't these lining up? They noticed it now because we did the reinstallation and they could see that it was off, but it was always off. You see in this before picture, you can see that this door is warped a little bit. It's bowed out. And that's just something that happened before we started our work. And there's really nothing that you can do to put that back once it's bowed out. And we were able to show the customer this and say, hey, I'm sorry, but there's nothing we can do about it. This is what the condition of the door was before we got here. So those are the kinds of things as a team lead you really want to pay attention to and document any damage, in addition to taking really good before pictures. The last thing I wanted to talk about as far as these pictures go is you want to take them in landscape orientation, not portrait. So let's see here. Go to Marsha O'Brien. See, these pictures right here were taken in landscape, meaning the phone, if you're taking it with your phone, which you most likely are, you're going to tilt your phone sideways. So the long way is sitting from left to right in your hand. That's going to give you the best scale of your photo, and something that we can use the best to post onto our website or social media. If you're just taking a picture with the intention of showing damage, that doesn't really matter. And in some cases, you really can't. Like for this photo, we had to take it in vertical orientation to really show this whole cabinet because of the space that we're in. But for kitchens, decks, exterior house painting, you're always going to want to take photos in the landscape orientation for either your before pictures or your after photos. Okay, so you finished up step 3, which is putting the art sign down, greeting the client, verifying the scope of work, and taking pictures. Now you're going to set up your tool area. Now, in most cases, you're going to set your tool up area right away. You're going to put a drop cloth down. If you're working inside on interior wall painting, you're going to put a nice clean drop cloth down in an area where the homeowner said, this is an area okay for you to kind of make it your home base where you put all your tools for the project. If you're working outside, let's say you're working at a deck, or next year you're painting the exterior of a house, you're going to want to set your tool up area probably in the back, hopefully on some rocks or underneath a deck. Again, you want to talk to the client about that and ask them where is the most convenient spot for you to place your tools while you're working on their home. And you're going to want to put everything down on top of a drop sheet again. If you're working on cabinets, that's a little bit different. You're going to get the floors prepped off first, and then after you get the floors prepped, then you're going to bring all your materials inside and place everything on top of your prep floors. Or if you're doing trim, or say you're doing ceiling work, you're going to get all your floors masked off and prepped before you kind of bring all your supplies inside. It's just going to make it a lot easier for yourself so you don't have to move things around. So this is kind of what that looks like. If we're painting interior walls, nice clean drop cloth down, everything organized on top of that drop cloth. We have our job box over here. We have our pop-up garbage can set up, fans, and everything that we need to. This allows us to have kind of a home base and a central location for all of our tools at the end of the day, but also to keep everything nice and tidy for the customer because they're still living there. And then this is a set up drop sheet underneath a deck. We're going to be staining this deck here. We just got everything laid out here while we're going to be working. We want to avoid, when we're working outside, putting a big drop cloth down on grass, because if it's a real hot day, it'll burn the grass out and kill it. So we would prefer that all of the drop cloths get placed down over like mulch or rock or whatever you can that is a surface that we don't really have to worry about. You obviously don't want to put it on top of plants. So be smart about it. Use common sense. But at this stage, you're going to want to bring all your supplies in and get your workstation set up. So now all of your tools are set up on a drop sheet and your crew is looking for direction. You have to complete the project goal sheet and project plan at this point and give your crew direction on what they should do next. So we're going to go back to the schedule here, and on the SOP link, we're going to click on that. This is the SOP for the directions as to what you need to do step by step. This is more or less your recipe. And then if you click on the goal sheet right here, this is going to be filled out a little bit by the project manager. So they're going to fill in the budgeted hours. This is a fairly large project. I believe it's 350 hours. We're going to have 2 crews combined on this project. Crew number 1, or what you're seeing here, they're going to be taking care of the knockdown ceilings. They're going to be taking care of painting all the trim and doors. And then they're going to be removing the wallpaper. The other crew is going to be painting all the cabinets and painting the walls. So whenever we get into a project that's more than 5 days, the project manager is going to put a lot more of their input into what should be completed each day, and they're going to put in a goal hours. If you look up here, your goal hours should be less than your budgeted hours. On a project that's bigger than a week long, we only forecast out 1 week at a time. So the following Monday, we're going to reconvene during a Monday morning meeting, and we're going to see where we're at, and then the project manager is going to set another goal for the following week. At the end, once you're nearing the end of your project, the goal hours should be underneath what the budgeted hours is. Now, the team lead at the end of every single day has to fill in the number of hours that they actually worked, whether or not they accomplished this goal, they got all this stuff done, and then they're going to set a start time for the next day and a meeting location for the crew. So if it's at the job site, you're going to meet at the job site. If you're meeting at the shop, then you'll meet at the shop. Or sometimes you're meeting at different locations. Let's say you're doing cabinets and one person's working on the doors while the other person's working on the boxes. You'll just put in NA, but you're going to still have a start time, say 8:30. If it's a project that's under a week, the project manager is going to fill out the first day's goal. And then when the crew arrives that first day, the crew lead is going to work with the apprentice, and they're going to fill out the rest of this for the remaining days. And they're going to set up a project plan so that they can complete this project under budget. The only time that the project manager is going to really put that much input into it is when it's a project that's over a week long. So when we go up here and we look at the goal hours, you see that it says that if you were to get this project done in 94 hours, well, it's bid for $242. Under the pre-straight system, you would end up making $47 an hour. It's not very likely you're going to get the project done that quickly. It's going to be much more likely that, say, you get it done in 220 hours. So let's just say, for example, that we put in here 150 hours. That brings us to 228 hours. If it was 228 hours, the crew is going to end up making, on average, $19.32 an hour. They beat the budget by about 10 hours. Now, that doesn't take into account the experience level of each crew member. You're going to have a team lead who makes more or a higher percentage of that $19.32 compared to their apprentice. So a team lead is probably going to be making more like $23 an hour, while their apprentice is going to be making more like $15 or $16 an hour. That all depends on experience level. If the apprentice has been with us for a year or two and they're still operating as an apprentice, but they have a lot of experience, their experience level is going to be much closer to the team lead. So that differential between the two is going to be a lot closer. So in that case, a team lead might be making $21, $22, and an apprentice might be making $18, $19 an hour. Now, when you actually complete the project, let's say that this is the goal that you would set up for yourself, and you set up a goal for 228 and your goal is ideally to make, about $20 an hour. Well, now you actually go through here and you start filling in your actual hours for every day that you work. You're going to see that as you put in your actual hours, this number is going to change. This is going to tell you what you're actually going to be making per hour. So let's say that you went over budget. We're going to have to put in 200 hours here. So 248. So it turned red. We're over budget. We're about 6 hours over budget. So we set a goal up to make $19.32 an hour. We ended up going 6 hours over budget, and we made $17.76 an hour. So it's real important to set up a goal for every single day. Try to chop up these jobs into smaller, more consumable pieces, and do everything you can to complete that goal, because you'll know that if you get the goal done this day and this day and this day, then when you get to Friday, if you're trying to complete the project by Friday to hit your goal hours, you know what you have left by the time you get to your final day. If you run into problems when you're in a project, let's say your project manager is filling out your project goals, or you're filling out your project goals, but you're running into issues, unforeseen issues that are increasing the scope of work that is kind of beyond the control of the crew lead or the apprentice. That's something you have to communicate to the project manager, because we can increase the budgeted hours on a job if maybe the job was underbid, or if something has happened that was kind of outside the control of the crew lead, making it so that the job budget is going to be a lot higher than what it was bid for. So that's what it's like to set up a project plan and set up your goal sheet.